Reddit is going dark. There's protests going on over the new Reddit API things that they're pushing out, basically charging people to use Reddit's API instead of it was free before, which does make sense. And Reddit should absolutely have some sort of charge for that, right? If it's reasonable, not what they're really doing now. Because what they're doing now has prompted people to protest Reddit and shut down lots of subreddits. You can see there's even a live stream right here on YouTube where it literally tells you like 7,974 out of 8,305 subreddits have gone private. And it just has all of them kind of scrolling in the background here. You can see green means they've gone private. You can see like this one, Batman Arkham, is still public, hasn't gone private. I don't know if 8,305 is the total number of subreddits that exist, if it's only like the top subreddits that have a certain amount of followers or something. But either way, it's a lot of subreddits. It's lots of people being kind of not able to use Reddit if they can't browse their favorite subreddits, because no one is honestly going to the Reddit homepage like this and scrolling through and trying to use all this, which this protest still messes with this too, because the recommendation algorithm for Reddit can't pull from any of the Reddits that are private because they're private. So it messes with the recommendation stuff, messes with people being able to use it. And ultimately, it's just not good for Reddit at all. And honestly, it got so bad for Reddit that the whole entire site and everything was shut down for a bit. It wasn't working because of everyone going private. So, Reddit's been going through a lot of hiccups, but there's a problem with this protest that they already put out an end date. I think they said 48 hours is how long they're going to keep subreddits private and protest this stuff, which is literally the worst thing you can do. You don't give an end date to a protest, especially that kind of short 2 days. Reddit can just sit there and weather the storm and then go back to business as usual when you're done protesting. So, if you want your protest to have some weight to it, don't put a time limit on it. Don't tell the people you're protesting when you're going to start and stop, because then they can plan on weathering the storm, right? So maybe they'll cut that and continue protesting it. Maybe not. Who knows what's going to go on? But there's an article that kind of breaks down some of the main points from this Reddit stuff going on. Like this right here, the Apollo apps, a popular Reddit third party type thing, says it's an alternate interface for the official platform. Said the exuberant fees have made it impossible to continue offering the service. And that's what a lot of people are talking about, because Reddit charging for their API isn't crazy. A lot of companies already do this. A lot of companies have it free, but it's been kind of a thing to turn to start charging for it now. So, but it's perfectly fine. None of these developers and people have a problem paying for the API if it's reasonable, right? So that's the big part, is that it's just not reasonable. The way that Reddit's doing it is not reasonable. You can see this. They said Reddit plans to charge developers that require higher usage limits 24 cents for every 1,000 API calls, or less than $1 per user every month. But Apollo said that their current usage, the charges would cost more than $20 million a year. So obviously, with that being said, if you're going to be a third-party app getting charged $20 million to run your app, that's not sustainable. Like, these apps, they're not making $20 million doing this stuff, right? So it's complete. I would agree that Reddit absolutely can charge for their API, but they should target a reasonable charge. The way they're doing it now is almost blatantly showing that they want to shut down the third-party apps and force everybody onto the main Reddit app. And one of the biggest things for that, or one of the biggest reasons I think for that, is that Reddit has been kind of hyped up for the last couple of years. I remember it constantly being talked about, of them IPOing on the stock market. And in order to IPO at a great price, if they can pump their user numbers and make it look like everyone's coming to their Reddit app and the official site and using everything like that, then it makes it look better for them, and they can go public for way more money. Because at the end of the day, that's what it all boils down to, right? Is money. So Reddit didn't have a problem using or having the API be free for many years now, because it ultimately grew their platform, right? By having people third-party apps will allow them to use that, maybe introduce people to the Reddit ecosystem. Some of those people transfer over, kind of like a marketing thing. But now they don't want that. They don't want the competition of their own app. They want everyone on Reddit, which makes sense, right? Like, you don't want people to just be using your API and basically having a clone of Reddit running off of your data. But again, if it was reasonably priced, I don't think anybody would have a problem with this. And that's something that the Reddit CEO actually talks about a bit here, saying Reddit corpus of data is really valuable, and he doesn't want to need to give all of that value to some of the largest companies in the world for free. So when you're looking at the largest companies in the world, $20 million a year for the Reddit data set might be worth it. Whatever they're working on, things like ChatGPT and AI, it might be worth it to pay that much money for, AI type thing. But it's not worth it for regular third party apps who are just trying to make something fun with Reddit stuff. It's not worth it for them, right? They can't even afford that. So the pricing model needs work. Even, I know that Reddit thinks their data is super valuable, and it probably really is super valuable. A lot of these AI things have been training on Reddit and Twitter stuff, and that's why Twitter changed to making their API paid for. Reddit's making that change, but it's a tough thing to kind of see that. What do you do? How do you price it? Because it seems like they're pricing against like Apple, Microsoft, Google, these top tech companies and their AI stuff. Well, doing that prices out their third party guys who are just trying to build something and maybe even benefit Reddit in the long term, but they're pricing them out of it and basically shutting them down. So I think Reddit should come up with a way to make everything better, charge your API, but charge reasonably. And if their goal is to IPO, which I'm almost positive it is, and to get the most amount of users and most amount of money so they can have a great valuation when they IPO, and people that are early investors and all this stuff can make tons and tons of money, then they just got to focus on doing that stuff. I mean, you can see Reddit's monthly users. I guess 2020, it was 430 million. Now, looking up this number, you get tons of different numbers. The vast majority of things say 430 million, and then they kind of stagnate in 2021, 2022. So it's somewhere around there. Probably some guys say 800 million. There was one that said over a billion. So, their numbers are all over the place. But I would say probably around 430 million, maybe 500 million or something, which is pretty good. It doesn't really put them in the top, social media things. You can see the big guys having almost 3 billion for Facebook, 2.5 billion for YouTube, Instagram's 2 billion, TikTok's over a billion. And you get to the smaller ones like Snapchat, 635 million. So Reddit's still smaller than that. And even Twitter, 556 million, which is probably around where Reddit is. That's probably the size Reddit's around this. It's somewhere around Twitter size, which in the grand scheme of things isn't really that big. Like that's still smaller than Snapchat, which I think a lot of people would look at that and say, there's no way Snapchat's bigger than Reddit, but it seems like it is. But maybe Reddit can grow faster than Snapchat and outgrow them. That's completely possible. The way Reddit works is much different than kind of other social media platforms. You got subreddits, it's like this whole community type thing. It's not really like a Twitter or something, but I think that's the main thing Reddit's looking at right here is IPOing their company for the biggest value that they can. How do they do that? Bring in the vast majority of users from these third-party apps by saying that you're just going to charge them an API fee, make it ridiculous. So you're not exactly shutting them down, but you're shutting them down. We'll see if they backpedal. If Reddit ends up backpedaling on this and maybe making their price reasonable for their API, or if this protest just gets swept under the rug because they gave an end date and are basically telling Reddit weather the storm for 2 days and then you're good and everything's back to normal. So see how it plays out. Time will tell what happens, but ultimately Reddit is trying to go for their IPO and it seems like they're shutting down the third party app. So that's going to do it for this video. As always, do me a smash like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.